Good afternoon. As I sit here and I listen to, oh, sorry, Aretha Franklin, God will take care of you, I began to think, and this is actually for healthcare workers, managerial staff in healthcare, and those who may be able to provide constructive feedback. If you work in a dialysis center and you happen to work in one that isn't necessarily award-winning for various reasons, and you see something, meaning you see that a particular patient isn't being treated with kindness or empathy, sympathy, or respect, or you see that a particular patient is reporting things that are wrong, or reporting things that should not be. Do you all say anything amongst yourselves? Are there any of you out there that literally take your job, I don't want to say serious, because you can still take your job serious and, not care about certain aspects as it pertains to patient care? But do you say something? If you knew that someone was self-advocating, hey, I don't actually get that. Maybe that shouldn't be on the machine. Or, hey, those lines are crossed. Maybe they shouldn't be. Or, hey, the heparin alarm is alarming because you didn't give me enough heparin. Or, hey, may I speak to the charge nurse? Or, hey, my pump has stopped. Or, hey, there's a blood leak. Or, just things that, that actually happen. You know that they're just reporting the things that are actually happening. So is it just become a matter of, can't stand that person because they always want us to do things that we're supposed to do right? Or, better yet, for the PCTs and the nurses, when you've tried to cannulate somebody and, for whatever reason, that first stick just didn't make it. And then your second stick doesn't make it. Are you jumping in line to cannulate that person the next time they come? Or are you taking offense when that patient doesn't want you to cannulate them the next time they come? And this is someone who is, just for context's sake, a patient that cares about their access, their graft. Oh, I have another one. How do you handle it when, as a PCT or a nurse, a patient comes in and let's just say they have a graft? In this scenario, would you say something like, after you palpitate and you see, they have a graft, you even ask them, do you have a graft? Yeah, and I know that should be in the system, right? When you pull it up, you should see what kind of access they have, right? Let's assume that the system isn't antiquated and it's up to date. Let's just assume that. And you see they have a graph, and would you say something like, if you felt this way? I hate graphs. 5 something in the morning. Patient has gotten there, done what they need to do. You come to them, and after palpitating and asking, if you say, I hate graphs, how should that patient respond to you? Someone that's told to protect their lifeline at all costs, and they protect it up until that point until they hand it over to you, and you say, I hate graphs. So A, is it wrong for the patient to ask for someone else? Or B, should they just allow you, the person that hates the very thing and only thing that they have, to go ahead and try to cannulate them and see if you end up in that, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that category? Is that something that you would report? Someone saying that they hate your access? Is that something you should report? Or should you not care and just hand over your lifeline and see what happens? Or would you even be that PCT or nurse that would ever even say that? I'm quite sure many of us have done things at our jobs that we don't like. But is it okay to just to speak that? Or what would you label that? Patients can chime in. If a staff member said that to you, how would you feel? They hate the particular access that you have. What if you have a belly button or a buttonhole? I'm sorry, not a belly button, but a buttonhole access. And they say, I hate those. If you have just a fistula, I hate it. Or how about you're at treatment? What if this scenario were true? You're at treatment, you come on time like you're supposed to, but you're not put on time 80% of the time. I mean, without the whole, we can be 30 minutes early or we can put you on 30 minutes beyond your chair time, and that's on time. That's like going to your doctor's appointment and you sit there. Your appointment's at 10, but you sit there till 10:30. No one's saying anything to you at all. You arrive. Better yet, your appointment's at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's get more close to reality. And you sit there. Your appointment's supposed to be at 5. And they don't come get you till 5:45. And you never know. You're just sitting there. They never pop in to say hi or anything. Or we'll be with you soon. You just sit there and you just wait. What if that happened 3 days a week? For a long time, for months. Literally no communication. I guess that's how kids feel when they go to daycare and you just drop them off, right? That's kind of how it feels when you go to a center and you just kind of like sit there with no communication. And there's a big whiteboard in the lobby. And you suggested multiple times to just, because they have to open up the lobby, right? So they have to pass the whiteboard, which also you pass a table where they have this sign-in system, but there's no paper for the date that you need. So people are writing on the back of paper. There's no clocking system, so you Everybody's going off of their own time. So the nurse comes in, passes the whiteboard, passes the sign-in sheet that's a mess, and no sign-in, you know, no clean paper for that day. And knowing you have issues in the back and that you're not going to be able to take anybody back for whatever reason, your water treatment issues or whatever. And instead of just stopping at the whiteboard and just writing a nice little, little note, we'll be with you shortly, running behind schedule, or whatever clever slogan you want to convey, but just something that's, compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic, and respectful, by letting people know that you're about to let in that you're not coming back here anytime soon. But instead you don't. You just choose to open your lobby, let people in, not say anything, run back to the back, and then just have people sitting there. And then maybe an hour and a half later, because then people are trying to call, right? There's some that will call. Some are wise enough to know that even if you call, they're not going to answer. There's no message that says, you're behind schedule today, blah, 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 anything. For whatever reason, the water, staffing, whatever. And instead of even just utilizing that, which is a resource you already have available to you, you're not going to come up with any type of response system, notification system. You've been offered multiple suggestions. Never has there been a reporting without a suggestion, some type of viable, realistic type of suggestion. Never has there been, except for like if you're reporting because people are asleep. I guess the only suggestion would be maybe staff should get some rest before they come to work. I don't know how you can deal with some reporting, but food for thought, So instead of coming and saying it had to be this, it had to be that, we've gone through that for months now, right? I have. And part of why I haven't done a story time is because of that, to be honest. Because a lot of you cannot handle truth. You can't. We give you the truth, that's not enough. And unfortunately, in this particular situation, that's all we're dealing with. We're not dealing with fictition. We're not dealing with any of that. We're dealing with the truth. Only truth. And for those of you that are wise enough to even know, even with dealing with that, you would understand the hesitance of, of giving a complete, play-by-play. And for some of you, I don't believe you're healthcare providers anyway. And if you are, you're probably a healthcare provider that I advocate not to have. Because, there are some of you that are very, I've gone through this. It's not everyone. And you're not all created equal, just like patients aren't all created equal. No one has ever abused anyone. No one's done any of the things that some people do get blacklisted for. I am specifically talking about blacklisting for advocating, self-advocating, and reporting. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. I could care less whether you do or you don't. It doesn't change my situation. But if you are one that operates in truth, then thank you. Then we can go from there. Because number one, I have no reason to lie to anyone or about any situation. There's that. And then there's what we call receipts as well. Ample receipts. So, it's very unethical. It's extremely unethical to do what has been done to myself and to many others. And for those of you who you still don't believe it, then, There's always the possibility that you could end up in this situation. And people just won't believe you. So it's not facts to me, are not subjective. Some of these things they're not gray. We're not operating in a gray area. We're operating in the black and white. Either it happened or it didn't happen. Either you did it or you didn't do it. Either you should have done it and you shouldn't have done it. And just, the mitigation of dangers. Speaking of which, how would you feel arriving at a facility that is to be opened at 5 a.m. in the morning? Rarely did that on the on-time thing. All types of weather. Then you arrive at this facility and there's no lights. There's darkness. There's no lights. There's no lights in the parking. There's trees everywhere. A couple of incidents where transportation workers had to kill snakes because people couldn't see them, didn't see them. You have people that arrive in different mobility situations, and you may or may not be open at 5. The darkness, that's a lot. Imagine driving into a situation where that's what it is. There's no safety. And you mention, let's say you mention, because maybe you do or maybe you don't, depending on how you feel, that this is an unsafe situation. Then you're dealing with property management types of situations where the facility may not necessarily own where they are. They have property management. And they're telling you that they contact property management. Property management is telling you they didn't even know it was a problem. And this is months, almost a year. And then finally, and you as a patient are just hoping and praying you don't injure yourself, number one. And number two, nobody else does. Because people coming in that early are either your staff. All of your patients coming in there are disabled, right? Let's start there. You do understand that, right? That everyone going in as a patient is legally disabled. And dialysis might not be the only issue they have. They may have vision issues. They may have other issues. And we're talking winter, where it's really cold. And we're talking summer, where it's extremely hot. And the mobility issues. You have amputees that are sitting waiting. Just, imagine that picture in the morning. Some are arriving before 5 for you to open at 5 a.m. And then you also have your staff, which are allegedly suffering the same thing. They're creeping up in there. There's snakes everywhere. Or, I don't know if they're everywhere, but they're snakes. And they can't see either. So, I don't know. You may have a vendor or two that's coming in. I don't know. But we know we have staff, and we know we have patients. And we know that your patients are disabled. And you have this information about these lights being out. Nothing. No movement. Contact the property management company, and they say, didn't even know it was a problem. Well, it stays that way for a while. And you mention, again, after, say you contact the property management company and they tell you, hey, we didn't know. So then you then send an email and you keep everybody abreast, because you're pretty efficient as communication goes. And then you just finally, because lots of people suffered from CRS, and you just decide, email's best. Because that way you can read at your leisure. You can say someone didn't say this all you want, but, words, I want to say words don't lie, but sometimes if you're using lying words, then they do, so won't say that. But, there's a level of accountability that you cannot escape, right? Historical in documentation purposes. Email. People forget verbal conversations conveniently. And people wanting to always have FaceTime conversations also can have the same stigma. Let's just, for lighter things and for things that are definitely sensitive, just send an email, right? Get an email. Everybody has an email. Something to fall back on. It's a reference point. It's really effective communication, especially when you're transparent. But like anything, if you choose not to be transparent, then which way do you think your communications go? So at any rate, there's email now. There's been email. There's email. And in this email, you let them know. Okay, they weren't aware of it. Okay, well, that's a start. Now they are. You let the property management company know on a Saturday, their emergency line, they show up on a Monday to take a look. And after all these months, you've been told, oh, we let them know, they're looking into it. Oh, we've been told. Lights are just continually going out to where they're none. It's dark. Then you take the liberty of taking a video of the outside of how dark it is and why it's an issue. Then you get told there's no video on it. Not even outside. Or you take a video of a place that they tell you is supposed to be open at 5 and at 5:20 it's still closed. Still locked. Then they get mad at that. You're not supposed to be videoing. Okay. And it's not a law. I mean, it's not against the law in a one-way communication state. But, okay, just to show you that you're saying these things aren't true. We are open. No, you're not. You're not here like I am. Or like who's ever reporting. They're there. You're not. Well, back to the lights. So the lights are out. And you're letting them know. You've even let the property management company know at this point. And then you get told why they believe the lights are still out and what it would take to get them fixed. And so it's like, oh, so it's going to take the risk. Somebody getting hurt. And that's kind of the position. There's no other position if you're not going to fix it. That's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to get hurt. And you've sounded this alarm. Fast forward a few months. You pray about it. You're asking God to protect those and protect you. And all of a sudden, you end up finding out. And actually, it's not even finding out. You end up being told. Let's try to be as actual as we can. You end up being told that an employee fell and hurt themselves. An employee you kind of didn't see for a while. But, it's not an alarm because, it's a move around type of industry. And then it's like, wow. Then you get told several employees fell. And one actually says, I just didn't report it. Then, you say, okay. And then something else happens. And it's like, I hope this situation doesn't end up like the lights. Because you had ample time to get that fixed. Or to make that a priority so that wouldn't happen. So I hope nobody else has to get hurt before you realize that things that are broken should get fixed, especially once they're brought to your attention. Sometimes things that are broken that don't get fixed. Sometimes people become unalive because of that. People become unalive because of mistakes that happen in this particular industry. And then you're told, oh, that employee would never do this by a manager. And your response is, you don't get to decide what mistakes your employees will make, will or will not make. Because if, in fact, you have that power, then you should never have any mistakes happen to you. Because you should know in advance that, number one, they wouldn't make that mistake. So you should be able to ward it off before it even happens. So consider this the preamble to my story time. So when you can process all of that and you can leave a comment for the questions that I asked, then we'll move forward with a story time. But again, it's going to be a truth. And I'm really not for the non-providers, the ones pretending to be the industry folk. So if you really want to know about my situation, and possibly even if you'd like to help in this situation, or if you don't, that's fine too. But again, it'll be truth and truth only. So again, if you can leave a comment in response to the questions that I asked, I would greatly appreciate it. May the love of the Lord continue to shine upon you. And have a blessed day.